Greetings! It is the 25th of September 2024, and we have two big storms that are currently circulating and interacting with one another. Tropical storm Helene is over here. That is forecast to go up towards Florida. Looks like an extremely dangerous storm. We've got John over here that already made landfall on the coast of Mexico as a Category 3 hurricane, and it moved back out to sea and is re-intensifying. Let's take a look at the latest infrared imagery, and this shows the temperature of the cloud tops, and where you see it in grays and the reds. Reds are about minus 70 Celsius and grays are into the minus 80 Celsius. That means that the convection is extremely deep when we start to see those minus 80 Celsius. So these are very vigorous thunderstorms. It looks much better organized than yesterday when it was all asymmetric and all the convection was on the east side. And you can see that the thunderstorms are moving in and clipping into Cancun. So this storm looks primed for formation into a hurricane pretty soon, I would suppose. Let's take a look at the mid-level water vapor product from CIRA. I'm just going to draw on the coastline of Mexico here and then moving up into Texas and around the US coast. Here's Florida up here. So the Gulf of Mexico is in here. We've got Helene over here and John is over here. And the reason I'm looking at this is because they're talking about, the National Hurricane Center are talking about a mid-level tropospheric trough that is going to cause the storm, developing hurricane, very likely going to be a hurricane soon. As it moves up this way, it's getting pulled north, and the reason is because there's a big trough in the middle and upper troposphere, and that's changing the steering flow of the storm and pulling it up towards the north. At the same time, a high pressure is moving off and bumping away from Florida. So that kind of explains the turning of the storm, but it looks almost certain, it's pretty much certain that it is going to take this track, it's going to go up, and it's going to go towards Florida. So let's jump into the forecast. I'm going to look at the National Hurricane Center forecast and then the Hurricane WRF, ECMWF, and I think the storm surge forecast. This is the really big deal, is this potential large storm surge, particularly into that northern area of Florida. Let's get started. So it actually looks very similar to yesterday, really, with a major hurricane landfall intensifying to become a major hurricane in kind of the middle to northern section of the Gulf of Mexico. So let's jump straight in with the high resolution domain, storm following domain. And we're looking at the surface winds here. So this is, if it gets into the purples, that's hurricane intensity. Storm comes up, becomes a hurricane just as it's passing through the channel here. This is the Yucatan Channel between Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. So let's go forward. So it's a hurricane category 1 at this point as it moves into the Gulf of Mexico in the Hurricane WRF. The storm intensifies, becomes a major hurricane in the middle. The reason why I'm saying it's major is because you can see there are two triangles, say in here, for example, that indicates 100 knots. That's well over the classification for a major hurricane would be 96 knots or higher, making it probably a Category 3 hurricane at this point. But the Hurricane WRF is pushing it to higher intensities than yesterday, and prior to landfall there's further intensification, which looks like a Category 4 hurricane. I'll have to just have a very close look at this chart. It's just one model, but I still want to check the actual intensity that it's producing. And then it makes landfall at very strong intensity, producing a huge surge, massive waves, and destructive winds, very destructive winds. So yeah, I just want to check in on those highest winds in this forecast. If we zoom in, looks like it is around the 120 knot range. That would make it a Category 4 hurricane. What we've got here in the Gulf are very warm waters. If I scroll my mouse over this area, you'll see the chart in the left, which indicates, it'll have a little marker on it saying what the temperature is. And when I do this, you'll see it go up to 30, almost 31 degrees. There it's over 31 in this area. So it's very, very warm. And these temperatures are above normal almost through most of the Gulf of Mexico. The only places where it's a little below normal are some tiny little pockets off towards the west. But this storm is forecast to come up through here through. It's already over waters that are warmer than normal. It's going to come through and it's going to encounter these further areas of warmer waters. These are about 1 to 2 degrees above normal. The model track, if we look at all of the models, it does look like it may have shifted slightly to the west. And the reason I'm saying that is because this is the earlier guidance at 0 UTC on 25th of September. But if I go back and look at the latest guidance and see how it's coming in, right, tucking into just that corner of Florida. If I go to the more recent one, which, I mean, it says early, but it's actually 06 UTC 25th, so it's a bit later. You can see the consensus track has shifted slightly to the west and is coming in more towards this peninsula that I do not know the name of. That kind of headland area is home of the Apalachicola National Forest. The Cape seems like it's called Cape San Blas of the mainland, but there's an island, St. George's Island. This is extremely exposed, and it does look like there are settlements here, which I suspect will be under evacuation warnings at this point, because they're right in the path. Let's take a look at the storm surge predictions from the National Hurricane Center. It's pretty much storm surge all along the west coast of Florida. 3 to 5 feet going up to 10 to 15 feet, damaging surge up towards the eastern edge of the Florida Panhandle. I think maybe it may extend a little bit further if those tracks, that slight shift to the west is confirmed. We'll see, but this is an extremely damaging storm surge, and the reason why, I have no doubt there are evacuation orders in force for this area. The surge will be compounded by the fact that there are expected to be, as you would expect, absolutely enormous waves with this developing and growing in size storm. This is the wave forecast that should be taken with a pinch of salt. I'm not sure what it's actually initialized with for the vortex, but regardless, even this, whatever it is actually based on regarding the winds of the actual storm center, it picks up waves up to over 32 feet as the storm approaches Florida. So extremely dangerous wave heights, as well as that storm surge, and enhancing that storm surge into the coastal regions. So overall, a landfall of an extremely dangerous major hurricane is expected on Thursday in northern Florida, in that eastern panhandle region. A life-threatening storm surge and extremely dangerous winds are expected. So we will try and do another update tomorrow, and in the meantime, I will catch you later.